The Battle of Yamama was fought in the plain of Aqraba in the region of Yamama between the forces of Muslim Khalifa Abu Bakr and Musaylima, a self-proclaimed prophet. After the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, many Arab tribes revolted against the state of Medina. Khalifa Abu Bakr organized 11 corps to deal with those rebels. Abu Bakr appointed Ikrimah as the commander of one of the corps. Ikrimah's orders were to advance and make contact with the forces of Musaylima at Yamama, but not to get involved in battle with him, and did not wish to risk fighting him with insufficient forces. Abu Bakr's intention in giving Ikrimah this mission was to tie Musaylima down at Yamama. With Ikrimah on the horizon, Musaylima would remain in expectation of a Muslim attack and thus not be able to leave his base. From this base, he kept the forces of Banu Hanifa under observation while awaiting instructions from the Khalifa, and the presence of Ikrimah had the desired effect of keeping Musaylima in Yamama. When Ikrimah received reports of the defeat of Tuhama by Khaled, he began to get impatient for a battle. Ikrimah was a fearless man and a forceful general. The next development that Ikrimah heard of was that Shurahbil bin Hassanah was marching to join him. Shurahbil too had been given a corps by the Khalifa with orders to follow Ikrimah and await further instructions. Ikrimah could wait no longer, and he set his corps in motion. He was defeated by Musaylima. Abu Bakr was both pained and angered by the rashness of Ikrimah and his disobedience of the orders given to him. Shurahbil remained in the region of Yamama to ensure that he did not fall into the error of Ikrimah. Abu Bakr wrote to him, "Stay where you are and await further instructions." The Khalifa sent for Khaled and gave him the mission of destroying the forces of Musaylima at Yamama. Khaled rode to Buta, where his old corps awaited him. Meanwhile, the Khalifa wrote to Shurahbil to work under Khaled ibn Walid's command. A few days before Khaled's arrival, Shurahbil had given in to the same temptation as Ikrimah. He had advanced and clashed with Musaylima, but was defeated. Khaled got news that Musaylima was encamped in the plain of Aqraba with an army of 40,000 warriors. The two successful actions fought by them against Ikrimah and Shurahbil had increased their confidence in themselves and created an aura of invincibility around Musaylima. On the following morning, the two armies deployed for battle. Musaylima organized his 40,000 men into a center, a left wing and a right wing. The left was under the command of Rihal bin Anfawa, the right under Muhakkam bin Tufail, and the center directly under Musaylima. Musaylima decided to await the attack of Khalid. He would fight on the defensive initially and go on the offensive when he had blunted the attack of his adversary and thrown him off the balance. Khalid drew his 30,000 men on the south bank, and he too organized his army into a center and two wings. The left was commanded by Hudayfa radiallahu ta'ala anhu and right by Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, elder brother of Umar, while the center was directly under Khalid. Khalid planned, as was usual with him, to attack at the very outset, throw his opponent on the defensive and keep him that way. Khalid ordered a general attack, and the entire Muslim front surged forward with cries of Allahu Akbar. Khalid lead the charge of the center while Abu Hudayfa and Zaid lead the charges of the wings. Khalid ibn Walid thought that his warriors would soon break through the enemy army, but the army of disbelief stood as firm as a rock. Then Musaylima, realizing that if he remained on the defensive much longer, the chances of a Muslim breakthrough would increase, ordered a general counter-attack all along the front. The apostates moved forward and the fighting became more savage as the Muslims struggled desperately to stem their advance. Some lack of cohesion was now felt in the Muslim regiments due to the mixture of tribal contingents which were not yet accustomed to fight side by side. Gradually, the numerical superiority of the apostates began to tell, and the Muslims proceeded to fall back steadily. Then the pace of withdrawal became faster. Some regiments turned and fled, causing a general exodus from the battlefield. The Muslim army passed through its camp and went on some distance beyond it before it stopped, with the apostates in hot pursuit. The apostates stopped at their opponent's camp and began to plunder it. This gave Khaled time to prepare and launch a riposte. Khaled could see what had gone wrong. The apostates' front had not given way under the tribal onslaught of the Muslims. The Muslims had lost their balance and under the pressure of the counter-attack were unable to regain it. It added another pillar of strength to the Islamic zeal and the individual courage and skill which distinguished the Muslim army in the face of 3-1 superiority of the enemy and the blind fanatical determination of Musaylima's followers. Absence of tribal loyalty had resulted in a weakening of cohesion in the Muslim regiments. Khalid corrected his mistake and regrouped the army. He deployed it in the same battle formation with the same commanders. Once the reorganization was complete, Khalid ibn Walid picked a handful of warriors and formed within to a personal bodyguard. It was his intention to set an example for his men by throwing himself into the thick of the fighting. This bodyguard would prove useful. The Muslims once again advanced to the plain of Aqraba. Meanwhile, Musaylima had redeployed his army in the same battle formation as before. He awaited the second strike of the Muslims. On the orders of Khalid, the Muslim army again swept forward. The Muslims launched violent assault all along the front. The most dreadful carnage took place in a gully in which human blood ran in a rivulet down to the wadi. But the battle hung in the balance. Khalid now realized that with the fanatical faith in their false prophet, the apostates would not give in. It was evident that only the death of Musaylima could break the spirit of the infidels. It would be a moral setback which would lead quickly to physical defeat. As the first violent spasm of combat spent itself, the warriors stopped to regain their breath. Then Khalid stopped out towards the enemy center and threw a challenge to single combat. Several champions came out of the apostate ranks to accept the challenge of Khalid ibn Walid and advanced towards him one by one. Khalid disposed of each opponent. Slowly and steadily, Khalid advanced towards Musaylima, killing champion after champion, until there were none left that were brave enough to come forth against him. By now he was close enough to Musaylima to talk to him without shouting, and he proposed talks. Musaylima agreed. Khalid had already determined to kill Musaylima. The talks were only bait to draw him close enough. Khalid ibn Walid ordered an immediate renewal of the offensive. The apostates began to fall back as the Muslims struck. After some time, the infidel front broke into pieces. The bulk of army broke and fled, scattering in all directions. Only about a fourth of Musaylima's army remained in fighting shape, and this part hastened to the walled garden while Muhakkam, commander of the right wing, covered its retreat with a small rear guard. This rear guard soon cut to pieces by the Muslims, and Muhakkam fell to the arrow of the Khalifa's son Abdul Rahman. Soon the Muslims arrived at the walled garden, where a little over 7,000 apostates, Musaylima among them, had taken shelter. The infidels had closed the gate. The Muslims were anxious to get into the garden and finish the job. Soon, a Muslim soldier, Barr bin Malik, asked his fellow man to let him climb the wall so that he could open the gate by killing the guards there. The soldiers jumped into the garden and opened the gate. The Muslims entered the garden, and the last and most gory phase of the Battle of Yamama had begun. The apostates stepped back as the Muslims poured into the garden. The fighting became more vicious. But Musaylima was still fighting. He had no intention of giving up. As the front moved closer to him, he drew his sword and joined in the combat. The last phase of the battle now entered its climax. The Muslim army pressed the apostates everywhere, and it was only the endeavors of Musaylima which prevented a general collapse. Then Musaylima came under the hawk-like gaze of the Wahshi ibn Harb, the same man who martyred Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the Battle of Uhud before accepting Islam. He threw a javelin and struck Musaylima in the belly. The next moment, Abu Dujana cut off his head. The news of the death of Musaylima brought about a rapid collapse of the apostates. The garden where this last phase of the battle took place was named the Garden of Death. All the 7,000 apostates were killed there. Keep watching and subscribe my channel. Thank you.